giving each candidate a little bit of time to summarize their platform or maybe give a speech. Then we're going to move on to the student-submitted question list. So these are questions that were submitted by students, approved by students, and so on. And then we're going to have an open question period after that. So any questions that you guys might have, they don't necessarily need to be related to post-secondary education at that point. And so these are our considerations. We ask that everybody be respectful, and when you ask your questions, you need to address them to all of the candidates. So everybody's going to get a chance to answer every question. Okay. So whoever wants to start.
Are we all coming down?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Are we all going to sit up front?
Yeah, for sure.
I think rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Who are you?
My name is Castina Inman, and I'm the Aboriginal Student Representative for UNB.
So how do you want to do it?
Whoever wants to start.
Where's the students submitting questions?
You ready?
It's already on.
Yeah, and then there's a photo right there.
I lost my voice this morning, but it's coming back, so I'm going to try. Hi, I'm Chief Fredericton, and I've been serving as chief for 2 years now, and I want to welcome everybody. I'm glad this format was set up. It's a great way to get a lot of the questions to the candidates, and it will help you make an informed decision who to vote for chief. Castina, thank you very much for organizing this and directing me to the building. I said I should be the chief for the last tribe because I've been running around for an hour, and she had to chase me down. So today, what I want to talk about on my platform, I passed them out. Did everyone get one? Or there's a couple up front. Rob will give his up.
No.
So today we met with the third-party managers, and we discussed the quarterly reports of the finances. We discussed post-secondary pretty much in detail. It's been very difficult as chief for the last 2 years to build a little bit of structure without steady revenues coming in and under the thumb of third-party managers. We do not get to make our own choices on the programs. It's all decided by them, and it's based on the budget. And especially when it comes to post-secondary, they make their cuts not based on, they don't know our community, they don't know our students, they're not sure who's doing well, who's not doing well. They just say, well, we can put 83 students in, and for the last 15 students that are on the list, and sorry, there's no money in the budget left for you. So that's been a difficult process for us, and I know all the students suffered this year because they were off to school already. They came to school without any student checks, and I think we got them off the day the students started school, which was frustrating for myself because I sat down in Richie's office for days, and students were calling saying they had to pay their rent, they had to buy their books, and they had expenses, and the third party just didn't care. So it's tough, and but the good news is in the last 2 years, I can say when I started out as chief, the debt was $52 million. Today, I'm proud to say it's at $19 million, so we're going in the right direction. It was very painful. We had made a lot of cuts in all our programs, and we made cuts in own source revenue, and we're all feeling the pain of those cuts. But we're going in the right direction is the good news. So in my platform, I probably won't discuss here unless you ask me later, but there's an update on the land claims issue, and under education, under health, and just some of the revenues that we maybe haven't come down within the next 2 years, year or two. Our name is getting better financially, so we have people that are approaching us saying they're willing to do business with us now. We're looking a little better in that manner, so we do have the potential to build homes, even while in third party. If we go into co-management, it'll be a lot easier, and I fully expect we'll be out of third party within the next 6 to 8 months. We're in a very good direction, and I think it's time for us to get them off our reserve. I'm tired of them making our decisions, and it's time for us to be able to be responsible to our people and make the right decisions. So I'm open for any questions that you have on my platform that you want to bring up later, and thanks again for everybody coming out.
Hey everybody, my name's Robert. Everybody knows me anyway. The direction I'm heading is that I want to surround myself with experience. That old saying, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. If elected, the first 2 weeks of December, I have access to Brian Arbuthnot's firm. He wants to sit down with us for 2 weeks and develop a map. A map's a fancy new name for an RMP. It's I don't know what it is, Management Action Plan. This should be completed within 2 weeks, and I'd like to present it to the community for review before sending it off to the department. With a decent, manageable plan, we need to show the department that we can maintain for 6 months. And my feeling is, at the 10-month period, we should be in co-management. Co-management's going to open up a lot of doors, all the doors, really. I know the students are frustrated, but it should give us more flexibility. I think the pursuit of block funding levels before TPM, plus the increases given over the last 8 years, is going to create a lot more flexibility and surpluses for our students and our elders, and all programs, really. Included in the map will be own source revenue, which seems to be a hot topic up home because nobody really seems to know where, what, or why, what's coming in, what's going out. I'm committed the first 2 weeks to review every contract that the band is involved in. Word on the street, Peter Marion's looking at $400,000 a year for managing, co-managing, TPMing our fisheries. I look at the Irving deal. At this point, we're getting, from what I understand, $20,000 a week in royalties, which is fine, but what bothers me the most is that we're not cutting the wood. I don't know if we should start a forestry program over, but I mean, if they're mechanically cutting, why aren't we mechanically cutting it and taking that profit too? Seems like we're just giving money away. Back when we went into TPM in 07, I believe, the department came in and took $500,000 out of the post-secondary budget. They deemed it non-essential. They thought we were overfunded at the time, and there wasn't anybody to argue the point. We just did it, and that's the way it's been. So obviously, I mean, that's something we're going to have to go and look for. But then to top off the students with whatever Mr. Marion and the Irving is making, I mean, $900,000 could go a long way. Along with Brian's firm and his offer, Neil Hurley has done the RMP for the band for many, many years prior to TPM. On my way down here, I received a call from Sterling. Apparently the students have given their SIN numbers in order to get direct deposits. write a letter to TPM and tell them that you want your SIN number taken off all the documents that it's been attached to. It's illegal. I spoke with Norval at great length about social provided for students that are in residence. I know it was the middle of the first semester last year that students were provided with just about $160 a month in residence. And for whatever reason, the beginning of this semester, it was just taken away. I asked Norval what the reason was, and he said the way it was explained to him is that TPM thought that our off-campus residents would flock into residence to collect $39 a week. It seemed like a big assumption to me because if you're living off campus, you're off campus for a reason, and I could see, people coming back for $40. Maybe I'm wrong, but their concern was that if they did go back into residence for the $40, it was going to jeopardize the program because room and board costs were more than student allowance. Anyway, that's back on the table again. I caught when the third party is at least looking at it again, but of course that doesn't address the student allowances. Getting out of TPM, again, is the top priority. I've heard that other bands in the region are paying their off-campus students allowance up to $1,025 for a single student. So I'm committed to researching that, but like I said, it's third party, right? My cousin Dana Francis has proposed and has lined up so far 6 companies that want to come here to have a job fair, including their unions. We've got so many things that are coming down the line. We've got a refinery being built in St. John. There's a 25-year project on the waterfront in Halifax. My target group is the 18 to 30-year-olds, 18 to 50-year-olds that are not doing anything. I mean, some people just don't want to go to university, but they're just sitting at home. I think my thought process started with my cousin's husband being forced to go out west for 2 weeks at a time and coming home for a week. But when he was coming home, he was making $1,500 a week. At the very least, I'd like to see these young people check it out. I mean, what's 2 weeks? You come home, you have $3,000 in your pocket. If it wasn't your cup of tea, then at least you tried. So anyway, that's going to be within the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping more than 6 companies are going to arrive, but that includes unions. Yeah, we've got to get our people qualified because I don't want to miss these opportunities. Had a long talk with Delbert. He's been in talks with the province because, let's face it, Moss's enrollment is way down. And I don't know what the impacts are going to be come next fiscal year. They base the budget, as far as I know, on nearly 80 students this year. And the actual number of students is 41. I've heard it likened to a one-room schoolhouse. If they're going to set the budget at 41 students, then we're going to lose staff, we're going to lose teachers, and that just isn't acceptable. Delbert's plan and talks with the province, and they're encouraging it because they want to see enrollment at Moss's go up, is the enhancement dollars. Elephant Thoughts, who's taken the lion's share of our enhancement dollars, their contract is up in June 2015. And as far as I know, Jeremy's ready to transition out. For me, the program has its merits. I mean, there's some good things in it. There's some things that need to be changed, but why not develop our own moose thoughts? We've got a dozen people down the road that are qualified to step up and take part in this and teach our children. I think it's a great opportunity to create employment and create our own program based on the template of Elephant Thoughts. Right, where am I? Am I going over? Okay, I'm sorry, I could talk all day. Land claim process. To date, I'm glad that the chief has that in our platform. I want to take a look at it. I mean, up until now, word on the street is, well, what's going on with land claim? Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think that we should get to the bottom of it, show everything that's been done this far, and go from there. I mean, obviously it's going to be a community vote. For me, when I was at that one land claim meeting, it was landlocked parcel of land that they deemed worthless to the point of $4 million. But then the number $40 million for it was thrown out. And somebody in the crowd asked, well, how did you get to $40 million? And the answer was, oh, well, we just times everything by 10. So if they're telling us it's a landlocked, worthless piece of land, but they want to give us $40 million, maybe there's something in the ground, who knows? Or maybe it's a right-of-way or a pipeline. I don't agree with land claim. That's my opinion. I think that our fight is with NB Power. We've got dam right in our backyard. I think we've got claim to Beechwood, which from what I've heard is the one that we want to attack. It's the biggest money maker. All that power goes to the United States. I think we have a claim to Max Plan. Anyway, as a community, I want to attack that. For me, it's going to be committees. I want to form every committee you can imagine. I want to involve all the community members. I want us all to take part in it. Housing, finance, own source, education. I think it's the key to transparency. I look at successful bands in the region. We take a member to Millbrook. To this day, I look at Millbrook and I see what they developed there, and I think about the truck stop and what we could have possibly done with that. And I don't think that's actually off the books. I mean, there's rumors swirling around that this guy would consider selling it back to us. But yeah, Millbrook, it started out as a fireworks stand. I mean, we've all been through there. It boggles my mind, and I think that can be us. We talk with people with wind and solar projects. They want to come here and talk to us. God knows we've got plenty of wind. No pun intended. The other thing is, I mean, I think we've got to demand proposed development on our lands to stop until we determine the impacts. You know what? It doesn't have to be this hard. I'm pretty soft-spoken, but you know, if you piss me off, I can get pretty mad too. I've been here for a long time, 23 years, and I'm not pointing any fingers. Look, we get all into this mess together. We can all get out of it together, is my feeling. I'll shut up. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, everybody. It's good to see all the Tobiquers here today. I'm happy to be here. First off, I want to thank Christina for setting this up and giving us candidates an opportunity to share our platforms and our plans and our ideas for moving forward with the community. So my platform is based on a community first structure. And that includes community and culture, improving essential services, lands and resources, and economic development. My background is, I have a background in business. I've been on council for 8 years now. Unlike my friends Rob and Brenda, I was born and raised in the community. And trying to draw some contrast. But me and my family live there. I have 3 beautiful daughters, and I think it's my responsibility to step up and run for chief and do what's best for the community and their future. Community involvement, as you all know, that I've been involved in a lot of the youth and recreation programs in the community. We've strengthened them programs. We've raised money to fix the youth center. We brought Labor Day weekend from a $3,000 budget up to a $50,000 budget. And we brought back Indian Summer Games back to Tobique, where we won in 2013. My vision for Tobique is we gotta build a foundation. All the other communities, for successful communities in our region, they have one thing in common, and that one thing is strong governance. Strong governance is something that I believe in. Strong governance is something that our community doesn't have right now, and it creates dysfunction, it creates confusion, it creates loopholes in the system where people can scheme and get away with things and abuse the community members' funds. And to me, that's unacceptable. So what I want to do is I want to put in place policies and procedures, one for housing and capital, one for human resources, so staff members can be protected, so we can have fair hiring and competitive hiring practices. I want to put in place a policy for land management so we can protect our territories. I want to put in place a policy for the Monster School so we can improve our education system. And I want to put in place a policy for post-secondary education, because right now, we don't have one. And because of it, our students are losing out. So that's something that's the foundation that we need to build our community back up again. That's what I'm proposing. Royalties, we're the only community that I know of that doesn't share our own source revenues with our community members. So what I want to do is I want to take a portion of what we make, split it up, and give it to each community member, man, woman, and children. And a lot of people ask, well, how are you going to do that? Well, first of all, I'm not going to cut off the elders. I'm not going to cut off the youth. I'm not going to cut off medical travel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the middleman in Grand End. His name is Peter Marion. Everybody knows about him. At least you should know. And right now he's taken 70% of the value of our fisheries and is putting it in his pocket. Right now, the community only gets 30% back to the community. Are we happy with 30% of the value of our licenses and quotas? You know, we're getting ripped off. And we don't need them. We have people in our own community that know fisheries. We have people that can go down there and lease licenses and lease quotas and make arrangements so we can get that 70% back to the community and put it into people's pockets. And that's my plan for royalties. Don't believe everything that you hear. And community involvement. One of the things I want to do is we want to finish the community center. Right now it's going up. It doesn't have enough money to be finished. So one of the things that I'm going to commit is I'm going to commit to going and finding enough funding to finish the community center. Because that's something we need for all of us to get together, to have the conversations. And you know, my Community First platform is based on, one of the things I want to do is I want to have community meetings once a month, public meetings, where community members can come, have their say to the leadership, ask the questions that they have concerns about, and get any animosity or any anything that they feel isn't going right off their chest. And that way the leadership knows how community members feel. Another thing I want to do is I want to have public, duly convened meetings. You know, I can count on one hand how many duly convened meetings we've had this term. And to me, that's unacceptable. How do you move forward with a community when you're not meeting, you're not making decisions, you're not planning, you're not developing strategies to improve the community? How do you do that without having a duly convened meeting? It just doesn't make sense. So these are the things I want to do. And I want people there to hear the voices of the councillors, to hear the voices of the leaders and where they vote and where they stand on certain positions and certain issues. And that's the accountability that we need with our leadership. Another thing I want to do is I want to have an annual General Assembly of all band programs and businesses. And what that means is that directors, business managers will be required to do an annual report and give a report to the community members. That way they know what's going on in these programs. And they can ask the questions to the program managers. And that's an accountability measure that we don't have today, and it keeps the directors, you know, if they know that they have to report to the community once a year, they're going to be very careful of the decisions that they make. Another thing I wanted to do is I want to do a public audit review. Right now the audit is reviewed off reserve, behind closed doors, and community members don't even see it. You know, that's something that we should all be aware of. We should be aware of where our money goes. We should be able to ask the tough questions on expenditures and be able to see it. With the technology today like this, we should be able to see where all our community money goes. The projects that are talking about that. Land claims. Right now, nobody knows what's going on with land claims. We haven't heard nothing from our negotiating team for over a year, and we're 2 years behind the actual agreement with the federal negotiator. It was supposed to end in 2012, and here we are in 2015, and we have nothing settled. And I, as a leader, don't know really what's going on, and I'm sure none of you really know what's really going on. So one of the commitments I'm going to make on land claim is I want to open up a land claim office so community members have a place to go to get the information they need on land claims, not just the specific one we're in now, but the other 5 that are out there that we can go after, and the comprehensive land claim that the Assembly submitted for on our behalf without permission. So, you know, community members need to know this information, and the only way to do it is to have an office where they can go and get it. And we need the information as community members so we can make proper decisions when the time comes to have a referendum or even have a community discussion about it. Resource and energy development. My main priority with that is to complete the traditional knowledge studies. To me, that's an important study that we need to position ourselves to tackle industry, because it's not just going to be the pipeline and fracking and all that. It's going to be the next 10 and 20 years, there's going to be lots of industry coming on our territory trying to extract whatever it is that they want there. You know, who knows what it's going to be next. So we have to get our studies done. We have to extract it from our elders and everybody that uses the territory for fishing and hunting and berry picking and medicines and whatever. But we need that evidence to put us in a good position to negotiate or to take a stand. NB Power, my position on NB Power is I want to pursue a megawatt deal. I want to pursue taxation on their lines going through our community. And I want to go after loss of revenue for our salmon pools. You know, the salmon was something that kept us alive for generations. And when they built them dams, you know, it changed our lives. You know, we weren't we didn't have a guaranteed food source. And it was an economic benefit to our community that we sold salmon to people down the river. We guided people up and down the river. To me, that's important. We lost it, but we should be compensated for it. Forestry is pretty simple. My plan is just to get people working in the forest again. There's no reason, we have so much wood that we don't know what to do with. So what past leaders have done is they've taken all that wood and they've given it to Irvin and just getting the royalties off it. To me, that's unacceptable. I think that if we're going to do that, Irvin should at least be employing our people. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be pushing for if we have to deal with Irvin again. Fisheries, I kind of already touched on that. We're losing 70% of the value of our licenses and quotas. That's something that needs to come back to the community. And not only that, but we have community members, we have captains in our community. They're captains. They have the money to pay a lease fee like a non-native. They have access to a vessel. They're willing to sign a contract to follow rules and regulations. But yet, they can't get a license to fish their own community's licenses and quotas to provide for their families. Instead, the Igloos Malik they won't give it to him. Who is he to say that our own people can't fish their right? That's something that's going to change, and that's something that I'm committed to. Our people will fish in Grand Land again. Independence. Basically what that means is we all know we're in third-party management, and third-party management is one of the biggest clouds over Tobique today. And it's pretty simple. Indian Affairs sent us 3 letters this term, pretty much giving it to us on a silver platter. Tobique, do this. All you got to do is put your governance in place, put a management action plan in place, and sign off on an audit, and we'll have you at a third party by this date. And this is the deadline. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. We didn't meet about it, we didn't discuss it, we didn't put nothing in place, and we're still out of third-party management. We're still in third-party management today. So what I plan to do is I plan to, first week of office, put a management action plan in place, and a MAP is basically just a long-term debt repayment schedule. And that's all they're asking for. That's something that we can do in less than a week, as long as we identify our revenues, identify how much debt we're going to pay off each year. Maybe we can't pay off all the creditors in 1 year, but we can pay them off in year 4 or year 5. As long as we have a plan, they're willing to let us come out of third-party management. So we put the structure in place, the foundation, we put the debt management plan in place, and we get out of third-party management. And getting out of third-party management means we get to control our own programs again, which means they can't tell us, it's not in the budget, you can't do that. We're managing our own programs again. And what that means is, if the budget is small in post-secondary, we have the flexibility to move money around within our budget and put money back in post-secondary so students can get allowance increases. And not only that, we can put money towards elders' special needs. And one of the most important things about getting out of third-party management is we get to build houses for our people again. It's been, over 10 years since we built a house? I think it's time that we start applying ourselves, and that can be done. That can be done by next year. We build houses, put the housing policy in place so that we don't make the same mistakes as we made before we went through third-party management. Education. My biggest thing in education is we need an education director. You know, someone's got to be overseeing the whole department. Someone's got to be in charge. Someone's got to enforce the policy. And that's something that I'm committed to doing, and it's going to be done through a competition. It's not going to be done by appointment. And I want to start an education advisory committee that, together with the director and the advisory committee, you know, they're going to implement a school improvement plan. And a school improvement plan is something that Mr. Brooks tried to do for us, but somehow it got rejected and derailed. But it's something that's important to bring students back to the school and take politics out of the school, because that's what's hurting our school right now, is there's too much politics. And a lot of parents don't like that. They want their kids to be in an environment that's good for learning. Not politics, or this staff is fighting with this staff, or the principal's a counselor and he's doing favors. That's not acceptable. The way to improve it is to have a school improvement plan. We set goals, we strive for those goals, and in the end, we'll have a better school and a better education for our children. Strategy. All of our community members have really good business ideas. So what I want to do is I want to develop a 5 to 10-year business development strategy. We'll take all those ideas, put them on the table, do a viability study, see if there's a market, do the business plan, and pursue them, see where they go. Say if we have 20 business plans, and we get 2 that will work. You know, that's 2 businesses that brings in revenue for the community and creates permanent jobs for community members. That's what we got to do to start building. We build our foundation, like I said before, and then we start building, you know, the bricks that we need to build the community back to the way it used to be. Gaming, right now, one of the things I want to do is I want to start planning to build a new gaming facility. Tobique used to be #1 when it came to gaming. Now the communities around us, they're planning to surpass us in that market. Madawaska opened up a new casino last week. I hear Woodstock's planning to expand their gaming facility. Holton Van Malseats have purchased land right in downtown Holton. They're lobbying the state to open up a casino. So all these communities, they're planning to surpass us. And what are we doing? We ain't doing nothing. So what are they going to do? They're going to come after our market. They're going to take our customers away. Revenues are going to go down. Jobs are going to be lost. Community services that are provided through the casino are going to be lost. So it's my intention to preserve all that, to plan ahead, plan better than what they're doing, and preserve what we have. Jobs is my job strategy is long-term sustainable employment. And it's basically a whole overview of my platform. We're going to need jobs in building houses. We're going to need jobs in building roads I didn't talk about, but it's in my platform. We're going to need jobs for our new gaming facility, which will include an entertainment venue and a Malseat Heritage Museum, because Malseats don't have a place to keep our artifacts, our history, our stories. You know what I mean? We don't have that. The Big Mom, they have 3. Where's the Malseat one? So one of the things I want to do is I want to pursue that, and I want Tobique being the biggest Malseat First Nation. It only makes sense that we preserve our heritage, and that's going to create jobs: curators, guides, maintenance people, and of course jobs in forestry and fisheries. That being said, that's my overview. My platform has more detailed information in it, but I'd like to thank everybody for listening. And right now, Tobique is at a point like we're stuck in the rut. You know, it's time to take a new direction. It's time to put our community first. It's time to start planning for the future. And you know, you can vote for another 2 years of the last 25 years, or you can vote for 2 years of something new. And that's what I would do. So thank you for your time.
Okay, so we're just going to pause for a second because we've got to switch over to another card so we can. Oh, is it the? Okay, never mind. Alright, so Jamie couldn't be here tonight, as I'm sure you all noticed. He couldn't get the day off of work. We've got him on a Skype call. He's going to do a presentation just like the other 3 candidates did. And then he's actually going to, we're not going to be able to do the Q&A with him over Skype. So he's just going to give a presentation of his summary just so that it's not left out. What? Oh no, he won't be on video. It'll just be audio. Okay, one sec. Jamie, can you hear me? Alright, I'm going to put you on the speakers now so they'll be able to hear you, and you can start when I tell you, alright? Is it switched off? Should be able to hear it.
Hello?
He can't hear us, so he's confused.
Hello?
Jamie? We don't have a microphone when you're over the speakers, so we can hear you. You can go ahead whenever.
Young person. And postsecondary, I've been thinking about it for a while. First of all, we need good governance in order to fix postsecondary. And I don't see that with the previous government we have right now. I've been to their last meeting, and I was probably asked for maybe 7 minutes, and that's no way to fix things up here in the community, which we need. So, going from there, it depends on the community, on who they vote for, that can help me and the community to get out of their party, which we need to do. So really, I'm dependent on the community voters to pick a good government that can get us out of this mess. And until we do that, we can't really do nothing for post-secondary until we succeed. And if there's any questions for me right now, do the best I can to address them. Because right now, we need policies, bad, and post-secondary is our Tobique's biggest investment. And without the investments, how could we carry them? So, like I said, if there's any questions, I'll do my best to address them.
Okay, Jamie? Sorry about this. Hi. So we can't keep you on Skype while we're doing the question period, but what we're doing is we're organizing a counselor Q&A for next week. We're going to forward these questions to you, and you'll have a chance to stop by and record your answers, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, thanks for your presentation, Jamie.
Again, I apologize for not showing up in person. It was interesting. I like this.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so now, like I said, the questions are going to be forwarded to Jamie. Next week, we will be recording the counselors' answers to questions submitted by students, and it will be posted alongside the recording of this event. So we're going to get Jamie to attend that, stop by, and answer all the same questions that the other candidates have answered. Okay. So with that, we'll move on to the questions that students have submitted. I want to remind you guys to try to keep your answers brief because we've got a lot of questions and only a little bit of time. So we're going to put a time limit on it, 5 minutes, but we're going to try to keep it below that even because there's a lot of questions. Okay, so just brief, simple answers. We should be good. Okay, so we're going to start with the first question. Did you pursue a post-secondary education after high school? Why or why not? For whoever wants to start, we can just go in order.
Yes, I did.
Me too.
Yes, I received a degree in 1991 for business administration, and I pursued it to better my life and get a better job.
Does anyone else want to explain what they said?
I graduated in '88. I spent 2 years at UNB. Moved home. And, I took classes on and off throughout the years. I spent a year at NMTC, I think it's called now, as a TC, or community college. I was there for 3 semesters, and I picked up probably 6 classes at UNB over the last 20 years. Do I have a degree today? Unfortunately, no. So you kids stay in school.
And I'll just, I went to UNB for 1 year. I took kinesiology. I didn't like it. So I moved back to Tobique. I pursued a business degree at UNB. And on my 4th year of a 5-year program, I was elected as council. And I still have 3 semesters to go to finish my program.
Yeah, so that brings us to the second question, which you've already answered. If you pursued a post-secondary education, did you complete your program? Why or why not?
Explain mine.
Yeah.
All right. So, you all First Week of Post-Secondary Education. What was the amount that you received for living allowance while you were going to post-secondary education?
Can I go first? My first 2 years, 88, 89, 89, 89, I received, and don't hold me to this, it was $675, and 26 years ago, and that included $300 worth of social. More than what you receive now. It is disgusting.
1991, 675 and 150 on social.
Ross?
2006, 900, but it was combined, the social and the allowance together at that time.
So were you guys aware that the living allowance has not changed for more than 30 years?
It's actually gotten less because they've taken out the social.
Yes.
So do you think the budget for post-secondary needs to be increased? And if so, where do you think the money should come from?
Yes, I do, and I think once we get out of third-party management, we'll have flexibility within the programs to move surpluses from one program into underfunded programs like post-secondary.
We had a budget 4 years ago of 1.5 million, and because of third party, the whole 1.5 million was not spent on education. They considered they had a surplus, and that was based on they didn't fund some students for criteria reasons, so they returned back almost $4,500, and then now it's $1,050,000. We have 83 students, and we're over budget by $4,000. So yes, I think we need to find ways to surplus the post-secondary for sure. And again, it all goes back to third-party management, getting out of there, so we have the ability to move funds around.
I touched on it earlier. Chief mentioned 450,000. I thought it was $500,000. Still, I think that would be that's going to be the best avenue to take. I don't believe we received an excellent explanation as to why they did it. They just seem to come in here and willy-nilly cut here, there, and basically deem post-secondary non-essential. I disagree 100%. Post-secondary is essential. Post-secondary is the future of our First Nation. So my plan of attack is to get to the bottom of this $450,000 and get out of third party first. We'll have some flexibility within block funding, moving around surpluses for our students, and what else? On source revenue. Starting to God, we kick some money into our kids from there.
So are any of you aware of any organizations that might provide grants, extra funding for Tobique's post-secondary program?
I know there's, I get forwarded a lot of scholarship and grants and bursary things over the last 3 years to my social network. And I know you can get scholarships through Maui, through UNB, through AI, through Inspire. There's a program called Inspire. The RCMP have a program. The Gwen Bear Memorial Scholarship through MBCC is one of them. And there's a lot out there. RBC has a grant program. All these grants and bursaries are things that I promote to students, and I'll continue to do that.
I've done the same. I've encouraged students to apply for grants, but it's hard because we're all applying for the same money. There's bursaries out there for our students in the United States to but they do not amount to a lot, but it does help in some circumstances. So what I had asked post-secondary to do this past summer, and we started it, is to start a bursary office or a scholarship office so that during the summertime you can come through and people that have processed their scholarships and have been approved, they could use you. You could teach the ones that are new at this. So like second or third year students could go teach our new students as to where they could apply. And there's plenty of places online that you can go to.
I'm absolutely aware of the Chief's initiative. It works. It's worked for my daughter Emma. Post-secondary, Richie and Laura have narrowed down a lot of the things that probably weren't relevant for our students, but more relevant. And yeah, they run a good bursary grant program right out of the post-secondary office.
So other reservations provide extra funding for post-secondary program through own source revenue. Do you think that we should use profits from reserve businesses to supply additional funding for programs such as post-secondary education?
I think that that as long as we have the resources to do it, I think that's something that we need to do. And we need to identify other revenue sources so we can add to our own source revenue, like new businesses, like the 70% in commercial fisheries. You know, we can identify the community needs and allocate the funds to where they need it. And definitely post-secondary is one of those areas that needs more funding.
We need to create new revenues. Right now, all the own source revenues are being utilized for several programs in our community, medical, elders, anything that comes up has to hit our casino, and our casino took a big hit this year. And yes, we do have forestry and we do have fisheries, and that's helping the situation, but we're paying back $79,000 a month towards the deficit out of all our own resource funding. As of January, we're going to be paying $99,000 a month through own source funding for our deficit. So what we have to do as leaders, all of us, whoever gets in, has to say, we have to go out and find new revenues, because all the revenues now are going towards our deficit.
Holy shit. Well, you know what? That's going to keep me pretty busy then. So I think as a community, we're going to have to maximize what we've got through fisheries and forestries to maintain this debt recovery payment. But that being said, for me, the students and their student allowances are a priority.
I think one area where we can identify funding to put towards post-secondary is ghost workers. Ghost workers at this time eats up a lot of our budget. They don't do anything, and they don't contribute anything to our community. So I think it would be a better investment to invest in post-secondary students rather than waste our community's money on ghost workers.
So do you think things such as school supplies, project supplies, professional equipment, clothing that are required by students' program, transportation home, transportation while at university, so if applicable bus passes, and tutoring services should be funded for students?
Yes.
I don't think any of us will disagree that all those above are
It's just a
necessity.
matter of finding the money, identifying the money. Of course, we all agree with that. I think it was the first time in years that Richie was able to bring home our kids last Christmas.
Yeah, with
Because of the
$50.
surplus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, we're all committed to that for sure.
So do you think students who need to take out student loans to complete their degree should be reimbursed?
Tough question. Oh, that's a tough one.
I do agree with it, but I think that our community isn't in the position to do that at this time. I think that we need to build more businesses and bring in more revenue, to put ourselves in a position to do that sometime in the future.
Plus, we have to see what it looks like. If we're paying tuition, what are they taking their student loans out for? Allowances, I know, are not enough, so and my daughter goes to school across, and she doesn't have enough to make it, so she takes out student loans. But she uses it to pay her car payments, her insurance, things like that, so should Tobique pay that back? I guess we have to look at all the scenarios and see what we're capable of paying back for each student, and did it apply towards their education?
Yes. You know what? I'm listening to Ross and the chief, and it is a tough question. Obviously, the band, even if it was healthy, doesn't have an endless supply of resources. In the event, yeah, absolutely. Should we reimburse student loans if they haven't completed? Well, you know what, that's kind of touchy, but I mean, if they've worked hard and walked out with a degree and did it on their own, yeah, I mean, it's something we've got to look at, for sure.
So, in the past, students who didn't graduate from the Canadian school system were funded for post-secondary education, even though they weren't entitled according to the AANDC guidelines. So this was before third-party management was in place. Do you think it's important that these members still receive funding from Tobique's post-secondary program through another source?
I gotta read that one. In the past, students who didn't graduate from the Canadian school system were funded for post-secondary education, even though they weren't entitled according to the ANSI guidelines.
I think it is important because they're members of our community. They're part of our band list. We receive funding based on the number of members we have as a band. So I think that it's something that we should do, but unfortunately we're in third-party management, and they make the rules and they enforce the rules. So that's something that we can consider as a government when we get out of third-party management.
And again, it's all based on the availability of funds. I guess right now we prioritize. We fund students based on, we put a basic priority on there as far as did they graduate in Canada? Have they ever been to the reserve? Have they been on the community? So do we turn someone down in the community down and put someone in the States and fund them to the States? And that's the big question we get every day. And INAC is saying, no, we can't fund anybody in the States, but they're all Tobique people. They're all Tobique band members, and they all feel entitled for an education. So we would have to find a way, set a standard that we can say, okay, we can't fund you 100%, but maybe we can do this. Set some guidelines so that there's enough for people that are away to have funding and the people that are home to have funding.
Thinking back when I went to school at UNB, and actually Brad's here in front of me too, and went to school in the States. They based their tuition, room and board on quantum. It was 25% First Nations they were eligible for. In Maine, anyway, I don't know about New York. I think it varies from state to state, so I mean, that's kind of a tough question. Are band members in Maine, if they're getting their tuition, room and board paid, should they be held to student allowance? Sure. It's tough, and I don't know how you could make that fair, because I'm pretty sure it does vary. So I bog ourselves down on one student at a time. Yes, if need be, but I just don't. I think at the end of the day, it would be fair to all of our stateside band members. Tough question. Tough question.
Do you think one staff member working in the post-secondary education program is enough?
No.
No.
I spent almost 4 weeks with them prior to everybody going back to school. looking at everybody's file, and first of all, I know I'm technology challenged, but there should be technology in there where there's files, there's 10 things of files that we had to go through, and we had to find report cards that were missing, and it was just, I told Richie, it just does not make sense to have this many students and not a database that we can use to access information with the hit of a button. And it's, you have to blame third party again. They do not want to invest in anything that's going to help us. And as of now, they're refusing to pay the one person in post-secondary, saying that, well, we can't pay him and put all your students in at the same time. So their priority is not making sure things get done properly.
I would say, yes, I think one person is enough, but I think that we need an education director to support that person, and we need a post-secondary policy so our post-secondary director has, a roadmap of what to do and how to support the students.
Good answer, Ross. You know what? He could have stolen my answer in my head. You know what? I've been in Richie's office, and Richie is completely bogged down. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work for one person to look after everybody here and then some. Again, this goes back to being third party. Their definition of post-secondary being, what's the word?
Non-essential.
Non-essential, thank you, Ross. Yeah, Richie needs help. And,
Or he needs a modern.
modern
Yeah, I think
technology.
he needs that.
Yeah, he definitely needs a database. How many databases out there that?
But I mean, unfortunately, Richie's program isn't the same. You know, there's other programs in the band that are lacking this database and supports. We gotta get a third party. I mean, there's so much we can address and so much more we can do once we're out of third parties. So, like, everyone's hinging on this.
Getting out of third party.
Third party. The issues are the same for all three of us. The solutions are the same for all three of us. It's just, let's get started. I mean, we've been a third party for 8 years.
I think it's a style of management as well. I think that, we can blame third party, but I think that we have to look at how we manage our businesses and how we manage, there's some really interesting challenges with post-secondary. I deal with them on a personal basis with my own children, plus I work at the university, so I have to deal with them with other students. So, just the logistics of taking checks to the bank or getting people to pick them up when they live somewhere else. Like, there's some real logistical problems there that I don't think third party is really to blame. It's how do you manage these complicated situations?
I agree. Back in '88, when I was all the way down in Warno, there was 2 on staff, and they came to see me once a semester. It's done big. Bring me out to eat, ask me how I was doing. If I need anything, call them. Yeah, we gotta get back to that system.
Rob, I'm just going to interrupt you here because
Okay,
that's what
sorry.
the next question kind of pertains to.
Okay.
So, other reservations have student support workers for post-secondary students, and do you think this position is a necessity for Tobique?
Yes, 100% agree with that. One person can't, the students are so spread out, one person can't get to all the students. There has to be a mechanism there that, again, and this is all of it, not just for students, it's a communication problem, as usual. We have so many communication problems. We have to find a way to communicate with every student everywhere and through Richie's department. So, and it probably will take more than just Richie.
Okay, so addressing that. Many students utilize the internet and social media to network and obtain information. So do you have any plans to use this as a resource for reaching out to community members and to provide them with necessary information? So do you think it's important to have a social media presence?
Yes, I've been doing it for 6 years now. And I've been getting information out to community members that don't live in the community. And due to the lack of community meetings and information sharing amongst the leadership, it seems to be, right now anyway, the only source that people have to get information. So yes, I'll continue to do that.
I think a controlled, I'm not a Facebook fan because it's just everybody is free to say whatever, condemn, put all their feelings out there, and I think that's great, but I think a business page for Tobique from your chief and council would be a great way to start. We did hire someone for 7 weeks, but the site never got up and running, and it goes back to employees being relaxed about getting their jobs done, and there's no mechanisms to say, why didn't you complete your job? So I think we should have a Tobique Chief and Council site so that you can go on, review audits, review the minutes of the 37 meetings that we had and the community meetings.
Yeah, I'm absolutely committed to the Tobique First Nation webpage. And part of it is going to be an opportunity for Q&A with Chief and Council. But more than that, I mean, it's part of the whole transparency. I think that everything in regards to every dime that floats in and out of the reserve should be accounted for and should be available to the public. I'd like to millwork and number two, that's all been readily available to the community members for years now. And for those who aren't computer savvy, we do some sort of mail out, compile a list of addresses and get them out to everybody who isn't online.
Yes, I think Tobique needs to move into the 21st century and do a community website. And that way we can post minutes, post live stream meetings, post audits with financial expenditures, post plans, strategies, information. Because right now the community members don't know what's going on. And we need to start communicating, and the website is a good way to do that, as well as on other social media.
Okay. So what would you do differently to include all community members in the chief and council plans and to keep them informed? What methods of communication would you use to get this information out? So I think we all just kind of website, mail-outs, moving on.
And we spoke to some elders today. Their concern is they don't use the website, they don't use computers, and they don't want to be left out of the loop. So one of the elders recommended that we have break the community down into sections, and counselors go visit the elders that are in those sections and talk about their concerns. And because the ones that we met with today said they'll never get on a computer, but they want to be in the loop. They want to know what's going on, and we suggested handouts too, so we could also do that.
What about the community newspaper? What happened to that?
Because the funding was tough, yeah.
Yeah, we got a
Oh, okay.
bunch of questions left. Sorry,
I'll
guys.
answer that later for you.
Yeah, we're going to have open questions after that, so you can ask any specific. So do you think there need to be hiring policies or procedures in place for new positions that become available? And do you believe jobs should have qualification requirements?
Yes, I do, and part of my platform is strengthening our governance, and I want to build that foundation, which includes a human resource policy, that in that policy would have fair and competitive hiring practices for people, and definitely got to have qualifications based on that, depending on the field of the position.
We definitely need a human resource department for all of the businesses in Tobique. not only do we have to post and advertise and hire based on qualifications, we have to go back and see who's in place now and say, are they doing their job? Do they know what their job description is? Right now, there's people that work that have never been assessed, saying, are they doing a good job? Are they not doing a good job? So they just kind of sit there and do nothing and hope no one kind of recognizes what they're doing. So we have to go back and revisit who we have on staff now and make sure they understand what their job is and that they're properly doing their job.
Yeah, so we've got that question up now too.
Oh.
Yes. We do need an HR department. I've been in and out of politics over the last 16 years, so I would involve myself when I thought I needed to be involved in. I stepped back when I thought I needed to step back. As far as policies, we have written policy on anything you can bring up. I think the problem is that they need to be gathered, put in a binder, and actually adhered to. Some of them probably need a little bit of updating, but they do exist. They just, for whatever reason, just kind of they're gathering dust on a shelf. But yeah, I mean, it's, yes. Yes.
So, yeah.
Or someone like him.
Do you think the post-secondary program should provide internships or co-op programs for post-secondary graduates? So should job openings in the community go to recent graduates first?
I think they should, we should have internships, and we do have a program in place that once you graduate through Tobique Employment and Training, Veronica's here, so correct me if I'm wrong, we do get funding if a recent graduate comes out, and I think recently there was a young woman that graduated from childcare or something, and we're putting her on through a government program, a provincial program for so many weeks to get her experience on the job. So 100% agree that we should be letting them do their learnings right in our own community. And if they're qualified, yes, they should get the jobs.
I agree. I think that we need to enrich the summer student employment program so that the students are working in the field that they're going to get their degree in. So if it's nursing, then we should have them working at the health center. If it's teaching, then they should be working in the education department. That way we're preparing them for a role when they graduate and they have the experience of working in that field. Because how it is now, it's, you know, it's labor, and they're not learning anything from that. So, yes.
What can I add to all that? It's hard to answer a question once you go first. Yeah, they made excellent points. But it's been going on for years through Veronica's program, and at the same breath, I agree with Ross. They should be in their applicable fields. We turned it into a labor force in the summertime, which is great for the students because they can use the extra money, of course. But yeah, let's enhance that program.
It's just difficult because departments don't want to open the doors for our students. There's security issues and
Why aren't more recent graduates hired for full-time permanent positions? Do you think this is a problem, and should recent graduates have priority? Same thing.
We have no administration. Like this chief and council was without any administration. Everybody was laid off to a third-party manager. We didn't have secretary for chief and council. We didn't. My phone in my office got cut off. We don't have phones, and so yes, this was a tough situation for all of us. And would I like to have some people that have recent skills? Yeah, I'd love to have them on board, but finding the funding for them is tough.
Yeah, I think we're all going to agree on it, and I think that it's just a matter of the positions being available for them to apply for is going to be the problem. Right now, the jobs just ain't there, and that's why I want to move forward with the plans in my platform so we can create more jobs for people to apply for.
Yes, and these, again, right, I know you don't like saying blaming third party for everything, but once we're a third party, we have more flexibility. These positions are going to be available. So, yes, I want to employ our grads.
So this is the next question. I have this submitted to me by several students in many different words. Basically what a lot of people don't seem to understand is if we're spending all this money on these students' educations, shouldn't it be priority to employ them in the community?
We'll take turns going first.
Okay.
You know what? Yes, absolutely. That's yes.
It's kind of like the same question.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. And an astounding yes. But then I mean, it's just boiling down to creating these positions, and they are coming. I mean, we can't be in this position forever. We just get started. December 1st, let's start.
And we're invested in their education, and the best way is to let them bring that back to our community and help our people with their new skills.
Yeah. So there's another question pertaining to that.
Oh.
No, don't worry.
Okay.
You guys they're organized based on their relevance, so we can kind of
Okay.
yeah. So in your opinion, wouldn't you think that tuition funding is an investment for the betterment of the community? So a lot of students were really angry or upset that there are positions in the community right now that they could be working in, and the person that currently works in that position isn't qualified or doesn't do their job. And so that was another part of the question that I'm trying to kind of convey. Like, students are frustrated because, you know, they think they can do a good job and they want to be there and they want to do the work. It's just, I guess a lot of people expressed opinions that things sort of needed to be moved around.
And I think that comes back to what I said, the assessments have to be done on our current staff. And if our current staff is not capable of doing the jobs, then we have to bring people that have the skills to do those jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, and my answer would be, that's the importance of a human resource policy. That way, if we have staff that aren't performing or aren't doing the duties outlined in their job description, it's documented. It's documented and they're reprimanded, and eventually they're going to work themselves out of a job, which leaves a position open for a new graduate with the qualifications to better service the community.
I don't recall there ever being a band staff evaluation process. Yeah.
I can help with that. Certified HR.
Hey, you told her to be quiet now.
Certified HR doing nothing.
So, are you familiar with the Post-Secondary Student Support Program National Guidelines? And do you think it's important that students have access to information such as this? So, this is a public document that is online that outlines how the funding that's provided by the government should be used in the post-secondary education programs. Basically, students wanted to know where to get this information. How do they know if they're eligible? And they wanted to know, does anybody really know the guidelines? Does anybody
Yeah, to go first.
Well, Richie should have a copy of this in the office, and I think that due to a lack of post-secondary policy, a lot of students don't know what they're eligible for and how long they're eligible for it, and they just, you know, they sign up and they go to school. They're not given a handbook or anything to that effect to know the guidelines and what they qualify for.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to put up the second half of this question and let Ross kind of expand on that. So if you are familiar with these guidelines, do you think Tobique fully follows these guidelines? And is there somebody who monitors if the guidelines are being followed?
I'm not sure if anybody monitors them. I know, they should be monitored and they should be followed. But I think that's the importance of a post-secondary policy. That way, students have a document that when they go sign up for funding, that they know their responsibilities and the responsibilities of the program and the service that the program provides.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not aware of post-secondary, guidelines. When I went to school in 1988, bring me your acceptance letter. Boom. You pay your room and board and your books. If you live off residence, you'll get an allowance. My daughter Emma just started her second year in university, and it was the same thing. Here's my acceptance letter. You live in a dorm first year. Okay, well, your room and board's covered. Boom. So, as far as I know, over the last 26 years, this post-secondary program has been running exactly the same, to my knowledge. Does it need to be changed? It sounds like it does.
Except for the allowance.
Except for the allowances. But yeah, I mean, if this is a voice, if this is a concern of the students, yeah, it's something that's going to have to be looked at.
And I have to go with Rob. I'm not familiar with the guidelines, but times are changing for everyone, and you see the economy changes all the time, and maybe the guidelines have never been reviewed recently, and maybe they don't fit today's criteria. I had an argument with a minister concerning trades. I think we talked about our youth going to trade school because that's where the jobs are coming in the near future. But when we try to send 3 people to trade school, we were rejected probably by these guidelines saying that First Nations are not, students are not allowed to go to trade school. So I approached Deputy Minister and I said, okay, New Brunswick's announcing that they're pushing youth to go to trade schools. So I told him, I said, well, I think tomorrow I'm going to call the newspaper and say, New Brunswick's pushing for trade schools unless you're First Nation, then you're not eligible to go to trade school. So you see these guidelines do not fit our needs. I don't think we fit in any guidelines. I think they make them up as they go along. And and we need to be proactive about that. Like, we need to stop. Like, when I questioned where did 675 come from, no one could answer me. I asked the third-party manager, where did these rates come up? Did you question them? He goes, no. And I said, well, how did you know to pay 675? Well, that's what everybody's been doing all along. So we have never questioned them.
Okay, in just a second, we're going to have to switch over to our other recording for the open question period. I just wanted to say that the 675 is actually based on a figure from a long time ago. It was taken from the student loans. Their guidelines for what students should have, they should live off of, what their basic requirements were, and that's been updated. So the living allowance should have changed, but I mean, it was originally based on that guideline, so why isn't it still based on that now? Why is it based on the guideline from 1975?
Yeah. Well,
so I mean, that's not even just Tobique. That's based on, that's a national thing from ANC that hasn't been reevaluated, hasn't been pushed by anyone because other reservations are compensating from on-source revenue instead of fighting it, and it's really a matter of more than just one nation, really. And so that's the end of the questions that were submitted by the students. Okay, so go ahead with the first question.
In my opinion, Tobique needs to be working with other communities. We need to join a collective body of all the Melanesian nations, not a collective body of the Assembly, because the issues that we're facing are primarily Melanesian issues. Pipeline for one has nothing to do with other First Nations besides Melanesians in this province. I understand that the pipeline approached one of our communities this past week, and that the community responded by saying, we will not talk to you as an individual community, we will only talk to you as a member of a unified Maliseet group. Would each one of you be willing to say that to the pipeline reps if they were to show themselves at our office?
Andrew, you and I had the same conversation a week ago. And I liken it back to when we got our civic addresses and we were then known as Tobique First Nation. My feeling at that time is, why wouldn't we be Maliseet Nation Act open? We share the same river, we share the same highway, we share the same proximity to the United States. I've always felt that, and 2 years ago when I campaigned, I always thought that our strength lied with the Maliseets as one. What a great, powerful voice that would be in the region if we could get together. And it's my intention to reach out to our fellow First Nations along St. John and get to that point.
And recently, I organized a meeting with the Maliseet chiefs, and we've been talking about this for a long time. It's just that we've been extremely busy. So we met in St. Mary's to see what Maliseet unification looks like. We're all for it. Like collectively, this would work for the Maliseets, and I think it's just we're trying to get it on paper now to see what it looks like and see how to proceed, because we're all unique. We're all Maliseets, but we have unique situations. So what we just have to sit and decide, how do we all come together and all fulfill our own needs in our own community, but still work collectively.
Okay, my question was actually, would each of you say the same to the pipeline?
Yes.
If they show themselves at your door? That we have no business meeting with them or dealing with them until such time that we are collectively approaching them, all of our communities together.
Yes, I would. I think that we're stronger as a nation, and I think that together as Maliseets, we can stand up to the industry and collectively protect our territories. I think that strategy needs to be developed. I know that the process has already started. It's just a willingness of leaders to want to go forward with that, and that's something I'm willing to do.
Yeah, go ahead. You guys can pick the. Go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question. Given the substantial amount of agreement amongst the three of you, it might be helpful for you all to talk about the differences between your approach. In other words, can each of you speak to how you are distinct from or different from the other candidates for chief? And what would make you the best choice for students or other members of Tobique to become the next chief of Tobique First Nation?
That's a good question. For me, I don't have the ambition to try to solve any of this on my own. We need all the help I can get, and I embrace every bit of it. I've surrounded myself with brilliant, motivated people that want to help, and I'm going to stick to that plan.
For myself, as chief, for the last 2 years, I've had to learn how to listen to everyone and make informed decisions as the chief. And to move forward, there's a lot of changes Tobique has in front of them, and we have to get the majority of the people to come out and talk to us, and how do we proceed as a community. And that's what we haven't learned how to do yet. We haven't learned how to be in the room with each other without everybody being so opinionated, liking their idea over the next person's idea. So what I say is, when we learn how to sit in the room together and discuss, as a chief, I will listen, and we will decide together what is the best way to proceed forward for Tobique.
So the question was, what's the differences?
What distinguishes you from the other candidates, and what makes you the best candidate for chief?
Well, obviously, the age is Different generation. I was born and raised in Tobique. I believe in community first, sharing information with one another, transparency within our meetings, and accountability with the decisions that we make. I don't have big money backers and with special interests. My special interest is the community. That's what I'm about.
I have a question. You all talked about quality management systems, policies, evaluation, and database system. So how long do you think it would take to create such a system? One that's viable? And because of all the cutbacks, where is the funding going to come for the system?
I've always, when we employ the students in Tobique for 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the budget, you bring your students in during the summertime and you let them show us what's available to us and how to set it up. And we show them the information that we have to gather. And for the 4 to 6 weeks that they're employed, let them put their skills to use. We're paying them anyway. We're putting them on for 6 weeks. And I find that our summer program, we just we don't utilize them in the best manner that we could. So we kind of say, well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't mind going over here and doing this, but let's direct them to a problem that we have and help resolve that problem through student employment.
I don't think it would take very long at all. First step, identify whatever competition, what we want, what we need, what our needs are. How are we going to pay for that? I don't know. They don't know. Is it necessary? Absolutely. Can it be done quickly? I think so. It all boils down to finding money for positions. But that being said, there are a lot of brilliant minds on the reserve. I would like to take a dozen, 20 of them, put them in a room with a pad and a pen and just have them have at it. There's so much money out there available to us, and we don't have anybody out there trying to get it. I mean, at the end of the day, if these 20 that are locked in a room and they haven't killed each other yet, there's got to be one good idea that's worth pursuing. So to create positions, yeah, we've got to access money that's available. I don't think we're utilizing that at all. So I'll find some money. We'll get right on that too, because it's a good idea.
What was the question again?
How long do you think it will take to create a quality management system? And where will the funding come from for such a system?
I think quality comes from the type of foundation you put in place. I think that with the proper governance, that will ensure that the management system is quality. And if we need funding, there's programs through ANSI called Professional Institutional Development that we can access. Proposal writing is one of my strongest attributes, and that's something I'd be willing to do to strengthen our management systems.
Just to pick up on the point I made earlier, but what really bugs me about one of the things at Tobique is that, we've had several people that have taken our abandoned administration to court because of wrongful dismissal. And a lot of that could be avoided if we had some good management in our leadership in terms of, evaluation, like you were talking about earlier, Ross. How do we evaluate people's performances? Are we doing that? Do we have the right people in the right positions? Doesn't seem to be happening in Tobique. It's very discouraging to see other communities moving forward in very good ways because they have good management, for one thing. and then they do evaluations, and then they do, you know, if the right people aren't in the right positions, then they get the right people in those positions. And I think that's systemically our problem in Tobique, and over the years I've observed businesses go down because of poor management, and somebody not really, and that doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of money to do that. I mean, you could learn those skills on the internet if you really wanted to. So to me, I don't know why that's not happening in Tobique. It's very discouraging as a community manager to see us not prospering as a people because of that. I don't know, it's not a question, it's just a comment.
Yes,
We need to get that off our chest.
I will, just a response to that, I talked to a couple lawyers and I said the same thing that you're saying is why do we keep losing in court? Every case is in court. And what the lawyer actually told me was what shocked me the most. Every judge in New Brunswick knows Tobique cannot complete a file, employee file, a human resource file, and so they're gonna lose every time. And the judge is already coming into the courtroom knowing this, and so he's looking at it every time we don't have the proper file. I think we won one court case in personnel. So you're right, it's about, so now when directors approach me or employees approach me, I ask the supervisors, do you have an employee file when you try to terminate this person? And I take it to the lawyer. Is this a good file? If they're going to be terminated, can this person sue us? And that's how I proceed now. But it has to get much, it can't be based on chief and counsel, really. It has to be based on, again, that human resource department. And we need that. And I guess, and as an example, if we look at our health center, it's running great. It's, they have employee discipline, employee evaluations, there's time clocks in there, there's all sorts of human resource going on in there, and there's a process in place. And if they were to actually be taken to court, they would win almost every case. So that's what we need to do. We need to get that in all our bad businesses, and not trying to use this as an excuse, but when third party is there, our employees feel protected. Like when we try to discipline an employee, they don't care. We don't sign their paycheck. So I've disciplined some directors, and they just told me, well, who are you? It's, you know, I'm going to get my paycheck no matter what. So what the chief says or the council says, I'm still going to get my paycheck. So the chaos of the third party process is killing us. And we just need to find out how to mimic what they have at the health center in all our departments, no matter what.
I also want to point out that the health center has a really, really good website.
Yeah.
It's really good. They have a lot of useful information on there, so.
Yeah.
My response to that would be, that's the importance of having a human resource policy in place, that foundation so that, you know, employees are protected, but at the same time, it puts in a process in place where things are documented. And that way, if someone is terminated, you know, the band has a file and backup information on them, write-ups. So you know, we won't get sued, and we don't put the community in a position to get sued again. And I think it's important because politicians shouldn't be firing people. It should be band staff, and they should be following the policy. That's where we got into trouble in the past, is the politicians said, you know, I don't like this guy, so I'm going to lay them off. You're done. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we got a lawsuit on our hands. Next thing you know, they're threatening to take away their school bus or the fire truck. You know what I mean? It's simple. Something as simple as a human resource policy that could solve all our employee issues in the community.
And we shouldn't be hiring people who sue the band back to work with the band.
Yeah.
That should not happen.
Again, I mean, it's boiling down to policy. I mean, we've got policy drafted, we just for whatever reason, over the last 10 years, haven't adhered to any of them. Are they a little dated? They probably are, but I think they'd be a decent template to bring off the shelf and review and update them and make them law.
I think recently, I had Shelley look at the policies for Tobique. We had 9 books, 9 policy books out there. Not one being followed, 9 books. And they have, like, so I've had employees come to me and say, I'm entitled to 10 weeks of vacation. I said, based on what policy? And they pick a book, like they come up with a book. Well, this one works, like I'm gonna use this one. So if they take me to court and I go to court and I have 9 books and no one's implemented any of them, so yes, we decided that we have to put the money in human resources. Whether we can afford it or not, we cannot afford not to do it.
And that's why it's important to meet as a chief and council, so you can approve these policies, which one is actually the one we're going to follow, and everything is documented.
Okay, we're gonna take 2 more questions and then,
I think Beverly's been raising her hand for quite some time.
Yeah, please.
My question has to do with the third-party manager. I mean, it seems like a lot of, like you guys had stated over and over again, a lot of our problems come from the fact that we're in third-party management. How much does the third-party manager get paid, and where does that money come from?
It's hard, yeah.
Actually, Chief and I talked about this a few weeks ago. As far as I know, we haven't seen the contract. They tipped it.
The new one, the new third-party manager.
The BDO third-party management contract. For whatever reason, it's one of the best kept secrets in the region.
I can't accept that though.
No,
Why are we accepting that?
The old third-party manager made $220,000 a year. And it comes out of
$220,000, and what did he do again?
sign
Just say
checks.
no?
Nothing.
So why can't us, as a part of the nation, why can't we come up with policies and say, you know what, we don't need you anymore. We're going to use the money that, so does that money come from our funding?
Yes, it comes on top
We're
of our
going to
funding.
use that money. We've got the policies right here. We're going to follow them. We're going to get out of this. We don't need you anymore. We're going to put your money towards education. We're going to put your money towards something that's been, we've been falling behind on before. We don't have to put up with this, do we? So why are we doing it? I mean, I'm really,
Well,
I'd stand
those are
behind
the
you guys and
mechanisms
take
that we
this
need to put in place, is those policies.
Exactly.
That way we can get out of third-party management, and we can use that money towards post-secondary or other community needs.
But why should we take it out of 8 years?
It's not going to take years.
No.
It's only going to take a willing chief and council, willing to put these things in place over a short period of time, and they'll let us out of third-party management.
And to be honest with you, not just 210,000 now. If you take Wellness Center, who has their own co-manager, and you take Child and Family, who has their own co-manager, I think altogether we spend 760,000 on co-management and management fees.
That's 3 people.
And it's probably higher than that with BDO because, let's face it, they're out of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to share the contract, the department doesn't want to share the contract, I mean,
I'm sure their expenses are really high coming from Winnipeg.
when I think about BDO, these guys don't seem to be very flexible. I think over the last week or so, they've sort of softened their stance, but this is the third party I thought we were going to be in 7 years ago.
Oh, I know what you're saying, like, the way they're enforcing the regulations, we thought when the first 7 years ago, that's what that person was gonna do. Now, this person, this new third party, he just drops the axe, he don't care who's affected by it. He doesn't wanna hear it, he doesn't wanna, that day we were arguing about students. I said, my students are away, they need their money today, not my problem. He said, I'll sign the check when you do the budget.
It's got to be an opt-out clause in the contract.
And that's why it's so important that we get our act together and get out of third-party management so we don't have to be controlled by these guys.
So do you have any say as to who they bring or how much they get paid or, you things like that, I mean,
We have no say over any ANSI funding.
But even on the worst, was discussed today with the third-party manager. We had a meeting early this morning, and Richard brought it up to them, like, we're failing compliances for 7.5 years now, and it's not my employees failing their compliance, it's their employees.
Exactly.
I don't hire the third-party manager, but yet they're still failing us. And why did you wait 7.5 years to say Pierre was doing a bad job?
Yeah.
Why did you wait that long? So now, I guess their response to what we've been saying all these years is, I'm gonna put somebody in that doesn't work with the chief and council, that's gonna drop the axe where it has to be dropped, no explanations needed. And that's where we're at in Tobique today.
so can we sue them?
I want to
I
sue
mean,
them.
we've been sued up the yin here, so why can't we do something?
I want to sue. I want to pursue a lawsuit on my own if I have to. I have the whole history for the last 7.5 years. I have the history of what's gone wrong in Tobique while third party was there. We have their contracts. We have whether they fulfilled their contracts, and if they didn't fulfill, who was monitoring them? There was no monitoring system in place, so they could come in, like Pierre come in, just okayed everything. So today we look at a list on postsecondary. INAC wants to claw back $500,000. Why? Because the paperwork wasn't in place, they're saying. The policies weren't followed. I didn't sign the check. Third-party manager signed the check. So go to the third-party manager and get your $500,000. You're taking it back from us, and we did our job. We had the third-party there. Our students had to go through the third party before they could get a check. So it wasn't my job to tell the third party what to sign.
Well, it seems to me like this third party program or whatever it is being used as a form of control. One of the strongest and smartest nation, in this area. And the second thing is, it seems to me like it's their gravy. We're being used as a gravy train for three people, and they expect us or the students or, I know a lot of cuts are in health too. They expect us to cut back, but they get the absurd amount of salaries. I mean, somebody, they have to be accountable for that too. How can they sleep at night when they're making that much money and we've got students that have to go to food banks?
They don't care, they're just there for the money. But I want to make one comment, I don't think that we have done our jobs. If we had done our jobs, we wouldn't be in third-party management today. We had the opportunities to get out of third-party management, and it never happened. So I think that the new leadership needs to do their jobs, get us out of third-party management. That way we don't have to adhere to these guys' control.
I just want to know if you guys are willing to do the same thing after COVID.
I got a pretty tight schedule, but you'd have to throw some dates out for me.
Set one now.
Set one, I have a lot going on. Like, we're still meeting with,
on record.
What would be good for you?
A Sunday?
well, Saturdays and Sundays I've been campaigning because during the week I'm working. Whoops, am I going out? Come on.
But a meeting in Tobique would be a good opportunity to campaign, would it not?
I'm willing to do a speech whenever everybody else is available.
So we'll get
I mean,
together.
it's great that you guys are here, but there's like a whole community, 2,000 people back home that want to hear what we're all privy to hear.
They're all saying it now on Facebook.
And we need somebody to set that up. I don't think it should be the candidates that set it up. I think it should be someone.
Castina did an amazing job setting it up.
Yeah.
She did.
And she
I just want to put the message out there that, I mean, it took like 2 weeks of me to plan this event. And I mean, I'm doing full-time studies right now. I had all kinds of forms to fill out, I had all kinds of waivers to get approved, I had all kinds of deadlines that UNB sets for you. But in Tobique, I think it will be easier, and I think it's just a matter of a couple people being like, this is the date, does that work for everyone? All right, everybody meet here, publicize it. All I did was advertise this on Facebook, and look how many people are here. I mean, you guys can do this too. It's, I don't know, I just...
You need someone to structure the environment though,
Yeah.
facilitator and moderator, so that needs to be identified.
That's why it can't be us that's organizing.
Yeah.
So where do you volunteer?
Absolutely not.
All right, so any last question? As far as like RCMP in Tobique, the contract is long past expired and has been expired since way back in spring. What are your plans for the security and safety of the community?
Yeah. I plan on renewing the tripartite agreement, assuming that both levels of government are willing to do that. Also in my platform, I plan to hire a tribal security force. This security force will be specifically for public safety. They'll be patrolling the streets at night, monitoring foot traffic, protecting our band assets, and they'll be a first responder to any calls during the night. Say an elder thinks somebody's creeping around their house, they can call our security force. Security will be there within minutes, and they'll be a first responder, and we won't have to wait an hour for the RCMP because during certain hours, they're not in the community. So it's important that we have somebody there that can be there within minutes to first respond to any calls or any incidents concerning public safety.
We have the Giga committee that's set up that works with the RCMP, and they make their recommendations to Chief and Council. The Giga committee is very disappointed that we've been promised a review of the contract to see that it's meeting the needs of Tobique. And we all know it's not meeting the needs of Tobique. So yes, we're in a very dangerous spot right now by not signing the contract, but they've assured us they're not going to pull the RCMP out. But it's tough not signing the contract when they don't want to discuss what we really need, which is more RCMP members, better hours for our RCMP. Our RCMP should flip their schedule around. They should come out at night. Well, instead of sitting in the office all day long. And the Gigahan's been trying to get them to make this commitment and to say, yes, let's review Tobique's contract. Let's say, and Elsie Bukta, they have 7 more members than Tobique does. They don't have that much membership more than Tobique, but when we keep bringing that up to the people that sign the contracts, no, sorry, Tobique's, that's all you're going to get. And most of the time, and you've worked with the RCMP, most of them are on medical leave. There's usually 1 or 2 bodies in that office, so they're not even fulfilling that contract. They give us 4 full-time RCMP. And I'm not going to sign that contract. Yes, we're living dangerously because what if the province says, we're out of here? You don't want to sign a contract, we're gone. But how do you sign a contract that's not good for us?
Good question, Cal. We've been talking about the RCMP and community issues for years now. I Tobique policed for 3 years. Lyndon, Shelley was here. It seemed to me back then, because we were willing to patrol in the middle of the night, a lot of these issues weren't happening because nobody's going to be crawling in the window because, hey, wow, don't Goose be coming around the corner any second. I think a police presence makes a strong statement within the community. That being said, my future RCMP member, yeah, at some point we're going to have a letter of agreement with the RCMP to ensure a service delivery standard based on our safety needs are looked after. The fact that there is no presence after, I believe it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., thank you. that's when things are happening, right? The policing budget, to my knowledge, is tiny. It's so tiny, it wouldn't support a total police force again. But I think there's some latitude to create a security team to complement the RCMP. If for whatever reason they refuse, they can't be here after 3 o'clock, well, you know, we get a bunch of guys at home that are willing to drive around and look after our community till 8 a.m. But the agreement hasn't been signed since this spring. Yeah, it's a priority. Take a look at it first week.
Okay, so before we end, do you want to do that? Yeah. Before we end.